Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Friday edition of our show. We've made it through another week. Appreciate each and every one of you kicking off your weekend with us here at A's Day. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grotto. Today is Friday, January 9th. We got a good show for you. We learned yesterday that catcher Shea, Langeliers, and the A's avoid arbitration by agreeing to a one-year contract. We'll quickly take a look at the details of that contract. We will take a little bit of a dive into the open competition for the starting third baseman position for the 2026 A's. We'll discuss the candidates that may be in position to throw their hat in the ring to that competition. And then we'll also give our thoughts on who we think has the inside track to landing that job, at least to kick off the 2026 season. Later, we also heard some exciting news that this past year's top draft pick from the 2025 draft, left-handed pitcher Jamie Arnold from Florida State, according to General Manager David Force, will be receiving an invitation to Big League Spring Training. So we'll also talk about what that may mean and what could it mean. We'll discuss the theory as well as what we think it actually turns out to being for 2026. And then before we get on out of here for the weekend, we're going to continue on with our series, our weekly off-season series of This Player in A's History. As promised, we're taking it back to the 1970s, talking about one of the franchise's greats, talking about Bert Campaneris. Holy Toledo, let's go A's. All right there, A's Day fans. Thank you once again for tuning in to our Friday edition of our show. As a reminder, we do offer these podcast episodes regularly twice per week on your favorite podcast audio platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, wherever you like to listen. Continue listening to A's Day 2 as well. We appreciate all of the growing support. In addition to that, check out our content on our social media channels on Instagram at A's Day Baseball Podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball, and check out our YouTube channels for video editions of these podcast episodes, as well as A's player interviews and destination content of where the A's may travel, as well as hotspots around Sacramento, like best places to stay, eat, and attractions in baseball destination cities all throughout the league. At the major league and minor league level, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We have so much to come on the horizon for 2026. Very exciting there. And to become an official subscriber of A's Day, check out our Patreon site, patreon.com/A's Day. For just $2 a month, you'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirts, A's autographed memorabilia, future A's game tickets, and so much more as we are able to grow this platform collaboratively. All right, let's discuss our first topic. Yesterday we learned catcher Shea, Langeliers, and the A's are in agreement on a one-year contract for the 2026 season, avoiding arbitration. The contract is valued at $5.25 million. This past year, Langeliers batted .277 with 31 home runs, 72 RBIs, and an .861 OPS in 123 games in a career best season. He ranked 8th in the major leagues in slugging percentage, 14th in OPS, and tied for 20th in go-ahead home runs with 12, while also making 104 starts at catcher. 26 of his 31 home runs came as a catcher, and he has hit 74 home runs as a catcher over the last 3 years, second in the majors, only to Cal Raleigh. Originally drafted by Atlanta in the first round of the 2019 draft, Langeliers was traded to the A's in the Matt Olson deal back in March of 2022. Langeliers continues to progress into an all-star caliber type player, and I think this year he finally put it all together completely, more consistently, and he has arrived. He is really emerging as one of the top catchers, not only in the American League, but I think in all of baseball. And his story wasn't told as loudly this year just because of the historic pace and performance that Cal Raleigh was putting up at the same position in the same division, with him hitting 60 home runs. overshadowed what Langeliers did this year, but for what he put together as a catcher, it's a sign of great things to come as Langeliers is entering the prime years of his playing career. So this is a great value, I think, for what Langeliers is going to provide both offensively and defensively. You avoid arbitration. You never know how those can go. I think both sides are here are excited or content with this resolution. It's, to me, a no-brainer to get this done. You were just going to wonder. It seemed like he was going to potentially get as high as $6 million, maybe a little bit more. But I do think, just to avoid the arbitration process, I do think that is a good area where the player and management relations can fray a little bit. Definitely have heard some past arbitration hearings going, and they can get rather brutal sometimes when both sides are attempting to make their point as to why the player deserves a certain amount of value or not. For the not, they really will dig into the player's flaws. I mean, every single player that's ever played this game has some flaws. That's just the nature of this game. If that wasn't the case, it just wouldn't be baseball, in my opinion. And anything, I feel like that's how it goes across all sports. There's going to be some areas for failure and some areas that there's going to be a need for improvement. And I think in this area, sometimes the team that's trying to undervalue the player will really dig into a certain aspect of that. So, long story short, to say I'm glad the A's and Langeliers were able to avoid this for the short term, but also the long term too as well. It seems like the communication channels have been improving on a year-to-year basis between the front office and the players on the current roster. So hopefully that's a sign of even brighter days to come, because hopefully one of the club's missions should be to lock up Langeliers on a long-term extension to keep him with the A's for now and for several years to come. But yeah, glad they got this done. I think there was something worth mentioning without a doubt. And looking forward to seeing how Shea Langeliers builds upon his breakout 2025 campaign. Let's move to another position on the diamond as we will keep on moving along here. We are now all caught up to speed, or at least the majority of us are. If not, coming into this offseason, the A's areas of priority focused on upgrading one of either second base or third base. At this point, the A's made their trade. They landed Jeff McNeil from the Mets, who is going to most likely end up being their everyday second baseman. So, with their desire to take care of two open positions, second baseman taken care of, which means it feels like that third base is going to be won by a current internal candidate on the roster. So what we are going to do is take a dive into who we think the candidates are going to be heading into spring training, give just a little bit of an overview of how they performed this past season, and give our thoughts on each player, because I do think this is an intriguing mix. I do think each of these guys that we are going to talk about have something that can really offer on an everyday basis that can benefit this team in a positive way. It's just a matter of, at the end of the day, who has the best mix of all the tools to provide an overall versatile output throughout the course of a Major League Baseball season. So I think by the end of this, we are going to make our initial pick at the time of recording in January here, on January 9th, on who we believe is going to win this job. This is before fully knowing going in, because we still have about 5 weeks or so until spring training. It's just a matter of if the A's do bring on any other candidates, if there maybe are a couple potential prospects, like a Tommy White, who I almost put down as a candidate here, but I do think he still has a full year of minor league seasoning still to go, but he's definitely ascending in the right direction, it seems like. But who knows what other moves can still be done. Maybe the A's do surprise some people and bring in a free agent or land a trade that no one's really talking about. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think if any more moves are going to be done, it's going to be on the pitching side of things, which really was part of the motivation of doing this segment today. Because I think we at least have a strong idea who's going to get a lot of looks at third base. Now we know that Jeff McNeil himself is a versatile player. He'll spend some days at third base. He'll spend some days at the corner outfielders, even first base. but primarily he is going to be the everyday second baseman for the A's. So that's why we're not going to talk about McNeil. We know he'll get some run there, but we don't think he'll be in a situation where defensively that primarily he's going to play more games at third than second. So let's just jump in. We'll talk about candidate to candidate and then give our thoughts on each guy and kind of have a resolution on who we think is going to end up with this job before we move along. So we're going to start with Max Muncy. He played in 63 games last year, batted .214 with 9 home runs, 23 RBIs, and hit to a .638 OPS and 7 doubles. Defensively, we're going to talk about their defensive work at third base solely. He had 30. That's where Muncy played primarily this past year. He had 73 chances over at the hot corner, made 6 errors, which is a .918 fielding percentage. Muncy, I think, is the most touted prospect, highly touted prospect out of the guys that we are going to discuss in this segment here. And with Muncy winning a roster spot on the opening day roster this past year, I think gives him the inside track to be the favorite at this position right now. Granted, I don't think he's the runaway because, in my opinion, I think Muncy primarily is a better defender over in the middle infield, over at second base. But I think with more experience and more reps, he can handle himself on the regular basis at third base. And I think the slug, you started to see it as he got into the groove in those summer months before getting derailed with a couple IL stints, unfortunately. You started to see the flash of what everyone had been seeing as he ascended his way through the minor league system. I think right now, if you hit the A's baseball operations department and the coaching staff with some truth serum, their pick would say that Muncy would win this battle as of January right now. And I'd have to agree with them, but we'll give our final thought once we go over each of the candidates. But I think Muncy does have the highest ceiling in all aspects in terms of all around out of these potential candidates here. But Muncy is someone that we think did get some decent Major League experience. I love the fact that he did compete in the Arizona Fall League at the conclusion of this year's end to kind of try to make up for those lost reps due to injury this year. So looking forward to Muncy, to seeing a year of development. I think he's going to be going into camp fully healthy, and he's going to have a pretty good idea after getting a significant taste of what it's like at the big league level. I think he'll have an even better idea on how to get that consistent routine to have even more consistent success. I think with that year of grooming under his belt, you're going to see a better version of Muncy, and don't be surprised if you see his name all the way through the running, through the end of spring training, with him potentially being named the starter at third base. So next we're going to talk about Darell Hernandez, another solid defender, a solid, versatile infielder. He played in 51 games this past year, starting the year at AAA before getting the call-up. In 51 games of action with the A's, he batted .231 with 2 home runs, 16 RBIs, a .599 OPS. He played in 20 games at third base, 46 chances there, only 2 hours and a .957 fielding percentage, excuse me. So Hernandez, he's someone that I definitely, as the year went on, was growing into one of those unsung heroes, one of those like grinder type players that you can't help but root for. I just love the way he conducts his business on a day in and day out basis. When he started getting regular run at third base, especially once Muncy was on the IL, I felt like Hernandez was making highlight reel type catches and plays on a nightly basis. And defensively, to me, he really stands out in this group because primarily a shortstop, he has such great athleticism and excellent reaction time that he is suited. While, typically you may want someone with a little bit more pop at the third base position, I think there's plenty of pop on this team that you can afford a little bit of drop in power production with someone that's going to have that high emphasis on putting the ball in play with 2 strikes, cutting down on the strikeouts, and really making life difficult on the opposing pitcher. Now, like I mentioned, him only, the .231, that's nothing that's going to, and a .599 OPS, those aren't numbers that are going to jump off the page at you, but if you regularly watched A's games and saw a lot of his at-bats, you saw the effect of what it had on those opposing pitchers in crucial times, whether that would be grinding out a 6, 7, 8, 9 pitch at-bat. passing it to the next guy if he's not the one that's going to get the job done, and not trying to do too much. And I think he has a great understanding of the strike zone and is someone that I think is a pesky and good versatile player to have on the roster. I think he'll have every opportunity to win this job too as well. I think this is just one of the players that you're going to start and circle as to see what kind of spring training camp that he does have. I know spring training doesn't necessarily mean the world for those guys, those bona fide starters, those perennial all-stars. For them, it's just getting their timing down, knocking the rust off, and getting prepared for opening day. But for this third base battle, all of these guys, for all of them that we're going to talk about here, spring training is important. For some guys, they may be even just trying to land a roster spot. But for other guys, and all these guys are going to have every opportunity to turn the heads of the coaching staff and prove why they deserve to be the third baseman. Because in this whole group, no one's necessarily established a track record to have a huge advantage over anyone to go off and say, well, this guy has the absolute clear-cut inside track because of what he's done at the major league level. For all of these guys, I think they all have a fair shake at it. Like I said, we've given our opinions on how they probably view Muncy, and I think Hernandez is probably right up there with him, I would say. If I had to guess right now on today's date, those would be the top two candidates for this job. But again, anything can happen in spring training, and performance does matter. So if some guy shows up ready to go sooner than others, this whole discussion could be shifted in a whole different direction. So looking forward to, again, I think both of those guys, whoever ends up with the starting third base role, the other is still going to make a major impact on this 2026 team. Just a matter of in what role. So looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out. Moving along, the next candidate we're going to talk about is Brett Harris. He played 32 games last year, batting .274, 5 RBIs, 5 doubles, and a .692 OPS. He had 82 chances over at third base, only making 3 errors and fielding to a .963 fielding percentage. Brett Harris is the definition of just a good baseball player. Someone that's not going to be flashy with any of his statistics. Someone that's not going to wow you with any power numbers. Someone that's not going to be flashy with his game. He's someone that just makes a lot of winning plays and has high baseball IQ without a doubt. And that's in all aspects of his game. He picks and chooses his battles in terms of when to run on the bases. He's very strong defensively wherever he's placed. Primarily, he played third base this past year, but can play other spots too as well. Good footwork, strong throwing arm. And he's also another one in that category that grinds out at-bats. At the bottom of the order, there were plenty of times that he would work a walk or work a two-strike knock or work the count back from 0-2 and get it back to 2-2, 3-2, making that opposing pitcher work. Whether the outcome was positive or negative, Harris's at-bats were competitive. And I think the 274, even though it is in limited action, I do think it's a high-quality 274. And I do think there was an opportunity for him to potentially even have a little bit more just because of how highly I value his type of at-bat. I think in terms of true professional, I know he did get some sort of procedure done this offseason, so I'm not sure if he is going to be coming into spring training 100% or if he's still going to be rehabbing. We'll do a little bit of research and track his progress, but if all is green-lighted, I don't think it's going to be anything that significantly sets him back. But if all is cleared and ready to go, I think Harris may be in that position where he's going to throw his hat in the ring, but probably most likely is going to end up in one of those bench spots. He is another valuable piece to have on the roster. Someone that could definitely, like I mentioned, have winning at-bats, play solid defense, do all the little things right. Those are the type of players that you want up and around your Major League roster without a doubt. All right, next we are going to talk about someone that they signed this past December on a minor league deal, but he was invited to Major League spring training with an opportunity to earn a spot on the roster. Talking about Michael Stefanik, who we had a great opportunity to sit down via Zoom. Check out our A's Day YouTube channel as well as on our Instagram and on Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to your podcasts, our audio versions. We posted that interview for you a little bit ago now. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, be sure to do so. after you listen to it, I can guarantee he's someone that you can't help but root for, not only to make this roster, but find a starting spot on this team too as well. I would say, someone like this, he has some good experience at being a major league professional, starting with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. But at the time, I believe they were still just the Anaheim Angels back in the 2018-2019 era. Was with the Blue Jays this past year, and now newly signed with the A's back in December, like I had mentioned. He only played in 9 games with the Blue Jays at the major league level, but he primarily spent the 2025 season with their AAA team in Buffalo, and he had a solid season there. He played 106 games, batted .287 with 6 home runs, 51 RBIs, and a .786 OPS. Something that stood out to me about his line, I know his game is someone that he really prides himself in having the ability to get on base at a pretty good clip, but also put the ball in play at a pretty good clip as well. He walked 59 times and struck out 44 across those AAA at-bats. So that's always something I like to see, because that's rare these days where you see hitters walking out more than they strike out. So definitely a tool on his baseball ability toolbox to be able to hold on to without a doubt. Defensively, he is pretty sure-handedly. He primarily played third base at for his season at AAA. He had 92 chances, only made 3 errors, which was good for a .967 fielding percentage. So Stefanik, he's coming in. He's a little bit more on the veteran side of his game in terms of his stature in Major League Baseball. I believe he's entering he's completed seven seasons at the Major League level, and is someone that I think can bring in some good experience to this young ascending A's club. Someone that does the fundamentals right and is going to grind out at-bats. I don't know if necessarily how much of an inside track Stefanik would have to be the everyday third baseman, but I do think he has every opportunity to land a spot on this roster to be the utility guy. He'll be in a battle, I believe, with the next guy that we're going to talk about before we move on to our next segment. And not to jump ahead of ourselves, but someone else that's going to be in this positional battle is going to be a Max Schumann. Now, are these guys both going to get the outright look to be the everyday third baseman? Or are those two guys going to be battling it out? Because I feel like those two players' style of games are very similar. They both take care of the baseball defensively. They both can run a bit on the base paths. I think Stefanik offers a little bit more in terms of contact rate as compared to Schumann. May be able to display a little bit more pop. But nevertheless, I do think that will be something else interesting to take an eye on, or keep an eye on throughout spring training. I think that you may be seeing a competition within the competition. Time will tell there. But I think with Stefanik, he's someone that's good to have in the organization. From definitely what we've heard, it's someone that has and will continue to be a great teammate. And I think with the experiences that he's had so far in professional baseball, could be nothing but pluses within this A's clubhouse. And so, rooting for Stefanik, best of luck. Looking forward to seeing him land a roster spot on the 2026 club, and then seeing what role exactly that will look like. And then finally, we're going to talk about Max Schumann, who we also had the opportunity to speak with at Sutter Health Park earlier this year, as we did with Max Muncy. So, talking about a lot of guys that we got to talk some baseball with, and we are thankful and privileged for each of those opportunities. On the 2025 campaign, getting back to talking about Schumann, he played in 101 games, batted .197 with 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, a .568 OPS, 4 doubles, 2 triples. 27 games he played at third base. He had 40 chances and didn't make any errors, so he was perfect over there in the 2025 year. So Schumann is someone over the last couple of years has gotten an opportunity to attempt to stick at the major league level, but I think his issue is he hasn't gotten enough regular run, and he seems like a player that plays off rhythm, and with the crowded areas of depth at his position, or because he is someone that's versatile, that he can play outfield, he can play third, but there have been guys who have just flat out been a bit better than he has performed at the major league level thus far, making it tough for him to land those opportunities to show this coaching staff, hey, if I'm playing 5 out of 6 games or something like that on a weekly basis, I can be a much more productive player. So I think Schumann, while he has been a team-first guy and definitely has served his role with his athleticism and playing very stout defense in his limited action. I do think without getting that regular run, we're just not going to see Schumann truly compete in terms of at the plate. I think that's something that's been he's had some tougher at-bats, and they haven't been as competitive as some of the guys around him. I think just with the higher strikeout rate and the lower walk rate, those are alarming numbers that I don't think bode well for him to be able to turn it around significantly in 2026. So that's why I would say with Schumann, he's gonna. I think, in my honest opinion, defensively, he's right up there with every guy in this running. He played like I said, a perfect third base this past year in 2025 in 27 games. But I just think what he can offer offensively isn't nearly as to par with a number of the other guys that are going to be in the running in this competition. So we'll see how it all shakes out again. Rooting for Schumann too as well. Good team guy. Someone that has all the tools to be a successful baseball player. Hopefully gets off to a great start in spring and gives Kotze and this coaching staff a reason to give Schumann this job. But we'll see. These are all guys that have contributed to where this A's team has come from and where they are now. I do think having a little healthy competition in spring training is good for everyone. It brings out the best, brings out the competitor, and can bring out that fire in early at the end of March and early April. Some of those games where teams maybe just kicking the tires, trying to get their feet wet in the season. Maybe that's the formula for the A's. They get out to a quicker start and come out with a purpose and show the league while they have arrived, and coming in that with that competitive fire, I think could really come in with that foundation of this third base competition in spring camp. Time certainly will tell. So we enjoyed taking a look at what that third base job could potentially end up at. We got a good number of guys that are going to be entering into that competition, and we'll be sure to update that too if there are any more moves that go on over these next 5 weeks. All right, let's move along. Let's just touch on something real quick. Just something of note I actually saw on social media. According to MLB Pipeline, Jamie Arnold, the A's #1 draft pick in 2025, left-handed pitcher from Florida State, is expected to receive an invitation to Major League Spring Training. This is according to General Manager David Forst. Not surprised by this, especially with where the game of baseball is now. It seems like these prospects are being groomed at a more efficient pace. And with what Arnold had displayed in terms of his quick ascension at Florida State, facing some big-time lineups, I do think they feel like his stuff is going to be a direct correlation to success at the major league level. With how his stuff is graded out, he is receiving consistent comparisons between his release point and his electric repertoire to Chris Sale. That's someone I'm sure the A's are very excited to get a look at. Now, what does it mean for 2026? I don't necessarily think a whole lot, to be completely honest, unless he blows the A's away spectacularly from start to finish in spring training. Arnold is going to start, I would say, high A, maybe double A if I had to guess, something like that in that area, but I'd say probably high A. But don't be surprised if Arnold is a quick ascender. And depending how spring training goes, if he's getting out major league hitters at a pretty consistent clip, I mean, we saw how quickly Nick Kurtz made his way to the major league roster. Why not Jamie Arnold? And he's someone that can make this A's rotation absolutely deadlier. And it's definitely something for the future, but I'm sure the baseball operations and coaching staff are chomping at the bit to see what type of pitcher Arnold can truly be in this rotation at the major league level. Because I think with how the scouting reports line up, with his pitch profile, his release point, the way he grades out, everything is pointing to him being a successful major league starter for a very long time. So with a team that is searching for pitching, it seems like on a yearly basis with the A's now, especially to supplement this top 10 offense, they want to see their guys like Gage Jump and Braden Nett and Jamie Arnold now break through from the farm system and get an opportunity to help this club at the major league roster. Now, you don't want to rush guys, and I'm sure in terms of bringing guys along quicker, you are going to see that more at a quicker rate with position players than with pitchers. because they want to fine-tune pitchers' repertoires, make sure guys are built up the right way. There's a few more intricacies I think are involved on that side of the development of the game as compared to a position player's development. Whereas, for a position player, it's just see as many at-bats as you can get as many defensive reps as you can get, and continue to improve upon and be the best player that you can be. With pitching, there's, I think, some fine-tuner details that go into the overall development process. But just wanted to note that I had a feeling like Jump and Net were going to be invited. I'm not sure if there's been an official report there yet. Definitely a little surprised to see Arnold get the quick invitation. But with the nature of the game, like I said, with how it is now, doesn't surprise me nearly as much as if this was 5 to 10 years ago. But hey, this will be a great experience for him, good opportunity for Arnold to get to know a lot of these guys at the major league level, because hopefully they'll be joining them sooner rather than later. And for him to get an opportunity to face major league quality hitters, see how he fares, see where he's at in his development. If he comes up and dominates, make it an interesting conversation. Why not? But nevertheless, I don't think they want to rush his development. Like I said, I think he'll start at high A, maybe double A. But this will be good for him to get an initial taste and for him to learn from some of these major league guys to take back to his own season. So that'll help in his overall development and get there, be one step closer than he was last year. So best of luck, Jamie Arnold. I think this will be a good camp for him without a D. Looking forward to seeing how he fares against guys on his own team in live at-bats, and then once they get into their Cactus League schedule. All right. This episode is brought to you by the Holiday Inn Sacramento Downtown Arena. We are thankful for them. They partnered with us earlier this year, hosted us with lodging and accommodations to show the proximity to Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, as well as other destinations and attractions in DoCo. Stay at our downtown Sacramento hotel. Stay in the heart of downtown at Holiday Inn Sacramento Downtown Arena, ideally located near Old Sacramento Waterfront, Golden One Center, and Downtown Commons, DoCo. Our full-service Sacramento hotel is just 15 minutes from Sacramento International Airport and within walking distance of the California State Capitol and Safe Credit Union Convention Center. Host meetings, conferences, and social events in our flexible boardrooms and ballrooms, supported by experienced on-site sales and events teams. Enjoy monitored amenities, including a rooftop outdoor pool, on-site fitness center, and Cypress Grill restaurant serving breakfast, dinner, and cocktails. Guest rooms and suites feature comfortable workspaces, contemporary amenities, and city views, making them ideal for both short stays and extended visits. Whether you are attending an event, planning a meeting, or exploring Sacramento dining, entertainment, and cultural attractions, our downtown location keeps you close to it all. Downtown access, full service comfort, easy booking. You won't go wrong there. We enjoyed our stay there. We actually recorded an episode there too as well. In their wonderful boardroom, where I had an exquisite view of downtown Sacramento. And in fact, we can actually see Sutter Health Park from the window. So that was cool to see without a doubt. And just want to give them a shout out. Appreciate all they've done for us so far. We're actually in the works for something else for a potential opening day project. We'll be sure to keep you all updated on that once those details are officially in motion. Okay, for this week's edition of This Player in A's History, as this will be our final segment before we get on out of here for the weekend. As promised, we're taking it back to the 1970s. Today, we will be telling the story of one of the franchise's great shortstops in Bert Campaneris. Bert Campaneris was born on March 9th, 1942 in Pueblo Nuevo, Cuba. His father was a mechanic in a factory. Campaneris had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. He attended Jose Tomas School in Pueblo Nuevo. Campaneris was gifted with incredible speed and quickness, but the only sport he played was baseball. He competed in a Cuban Little League at the age of 11 and was later a catcher for a semi-pro team. He said he loved baseball so much that he even assisted as a groundskeeper to take care of the local fields. At the Pan Am Games in Costa Rica in 1961, he drew the attention of Kansas City athletic scout Felix Delgado, who persisted in efforts to sign him. Eventually, Campaneris signed a contract that called for a $1,000 bonus, payable only if he remained with the A's organization for at least 60 days. Campaneris was one of the last players to leave Cuba for the United States before the Castro Revolution made emigration extremely rare. Daytona Beach, Florida State League, and Binghamton, New York of the Class A Eastern League, Campaneris was eager to play at every position and was ambidextrous. Once with Daytona Beach, he pitched both right-handed and left-handed in a 2-inning relief appearance. He faced a switch hitter during his stint on the mound and changed over when he faced him. Campaneris spent 2 months of the 1963 season on the disabled list with a sore arm, but got into 48 games with Lewiston of the Northwest League, and Binghamton, where he caught and batted .308 as the leadoff hitter. He spent the offseason playing for the A's team in the Florida Instructional League. Campaneris began the 1964 season with AA Birmingham and batted .325. On July 22, 1964, Campaneris was called up after A's shortstop Wayne Causey injured his elbow. After an overnight plane trip, he arrived in Minneapolis the next day, 2 hours before the start of the A's game against the Twins, and had an unforgettable Major League debut. Playing shortstop and batting second, he sent a pitch by the Twins' left-handed pitcher Jim Cott over the left field fence in his first at-bat for a home run. In the 7th inning, he hit another home run. He turned in a brilliant defensive play, singled, and stole a base in the A's 11-inning victory. Campaneris became the second major leaguer to hit 2 home runs in a debut game after the St. Louis Browns' Bob Neiman did it back in 1951. Campaneris finished the season batting .257 with the A's with 10 stolen bases in 67 games and earned a spot on the Topps Major League Rookie All-Star team. In 1965, Campaneris battled his second cousin, Angels outfielder Jose Cardenal, for the American League stolen base title. Cardenal said in an interview that they played together constantly during their youthful years. Campaneris won the stolen base title with 51, besting Cardenal's second-place total of 37. He batted .270 with 23 doubles, a league-leading 12 triples, and 6 home runs. Campaneris was honored with a night at Kansas City's Municipal Stadium on September 8, 1965. He marked the occasion by playing all 9 positions in that night's game against the Angels. He started at shortstop, went to second base for the second inning, then successfully played third base, each outfield position, and first base. He pitched the 8th inning, yielding a run, and caught the 9th inning. The 5'10", 160-pound Campaneris injured his shoulder in a collision with Ed Kirkpatrick at home plate in the 9th and had to leave the game. He was out of the lineup for the next 5 games. In 1966, Campaneris teamed with second baseman Dick Green, and their great range gave the A's a very dependable double-play combination. Green remarked, "I had never played with a shortstop who threw the ball that hard." Campaneris led the league with 259 putouts at short. Again, he led the league in stolen bases, piling up 52 stolen bases in 62 attempts. In the A's last season in Kansas City in 1967, Campaneris captured his 3rd consecutive stolen base title with 55. On August 29th against Cleveland, he belted 3 triples. His batting average for the season, however, slipped to .248. In 1968, the A's inaugural season in Oakland, Campaneris raised his batting average to .276, aided by a 15-game hitting streak between August 4th and 18th, including a 5-hit game on the 9th. He captured his 4th consecutive stolen base title with a career-high 62 stolen bases and led the league with 177 hits and 642 at-bats. On August 29th, he repeated his feat from a year ago against Cleveland once again belting 3 triples. Campaneris had 62 steals in 1969, but his 4-year reign as the AL stolen base leader ended, and it would come to an end in 1969 as Tommy Harper of the Seattle Pilots stole 73 bags. Campaneris did miss most of July after he fractured his right index finger while taking a double play relay throw at second base in the game against Seattle on July 3rd. The injury kept him out of the lineup until July 25th. For the season, Campaneris batted .260 and, along with Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, and a host of others, led to the A's to a contending role in the AL West. Oakland finished with an 88-74 record, 9 games behind the division champion Minnesota Twins. On to 1970, Campaneris batted .279, posting career highs in home runs with 22 and RBIs at 64. The A's finished second again with an 89-73 record, 9 games again behind the Twins again. The A's would go on to win the American League West the following year in 1971 by 16 games over the Kansas City Royals. Campaneris experienced a power outage that season, hitting only 5 round trippers while batting .251. 2 of his home runs came in a game against Cleveland on May 12th off Sam McDowell. On September 6th, Campaneris was thrown out of a game by home plate umpire Russ Getz after burying the plate with dirt while protesting a called third strike. 2 days later, after stealing second, he broke the base loose from its mooring, chased it 5 feet, and wrapped his arms around it so he wouldn't be called out. In the American League Championship Series, Oakland was swept by the Baltimore Orioles. Campaneris had a great year in 1972, leading the league in chances with 795, at-bats with 625, and stolen bases with 52. He finished second to Boston's Luis Aparicio in balloting for the All-Star game. Even after Luis broke a finger and couldn't play, AL manager Earl Weaver selected Texas shortstop Toby Harrah. Harrah also was unable to play because of a sore shoulder, and Weaver then selected Orioles shortstop Bobby Grich, who played the entire 10 innings in the game, much to Campaneris' chagrin. 3 weeks later, Campaneris responded to the All-Star snub in a game at Baltimore. After collecting his 3rd stolen base of the game in the 5th inning, he went to third on a throwing error by Orioles catcher Andy Etchbarren, then coaxed Jim Palmer into a run-scoring balk. While heading home, he looked into the Orioles dugout and tipped his cap to Weaver. On the last day of the season, Campaneris led by 2 in the stolen base race and was going to sit out the season finale. After the A's broadcasters found out, however, that Dave Nelson of the Texas Rangers had stolen 3 bases in his game, Campaneris entered the A's game in the 4th inning as a pinch runner. He stole second and third, denying Nelson the title and also spoiling Nolan Ryan's bid for his first 20-win season. The A's finished the 1972 season with a 93-62 record, winning their division by 5.5 games over the Chicago White Sox, earning them a berth in the American League Championship Series against the Tigers. After the A's won Game 1 3-2, fireworks erupted during. After the A's won Game 1 3-2, fireworks erupted during Game 2. In the bottom of the 7th, Campaneris, who was already 3 for 3 with 2 stolen bases and 2 runs scored, was hit in the ankle by a pitch from Laron LeGros. Campaneris threw his bat towards LeGros, who ducked to avoid being hit. With Detroit manager Billy Martin in the lead, the Tigers went for Campaneris. After the game, Martin said of his role in the fracas, "You bet I was after him. There's no place for that kind of gutless stuff in baseball. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in all my years of baseball. I would respect him if he went out to throw a punch. But what he did was the most gutless thing of any man to put on a uniform. It was a disgrace to baseball." 3 umpires held back Billy Martin, and home plate umpire Nestor Chilak ejected LeGros and Campaneris. And if you're not super familiar with Billy Martin and with how he managed with his high, fiery passion for the game, I think this is another clear example of how he exemplified that on a day-to-day basis. Explaining his actions later, Campaneris said, "My ankle hurts so bad. I knew he was going to throw at me, but people now tell me it's better to go and fight. I don't know. I just lost my temper." American League President Joe Cronin suspended Campaneris for the remainder of the ALCS, fined him $500, and left the decision about a possible World Series suspension to Commissioner Bowie Kuhn. Kuhn ruled that Campaneris would play in the World Series but would be suspended without pay for the first 7 games of the 1973 season. The incident did indeed spark the Tigers. Without Campaneris in the A's lineup, they would tie the series, but the A's won the 5th and deciding game 2-1 and went on to win the franchise's first World Series since 1931, all the way back when they were in Philadelphia. In 1973, Campaneris became the first A's player to be offered a 2-year contract by owner Charlie Finley, signing a deal for a reported $65,000 a season. Campaneris sat on the bench the first 5 games. The 7-game sentence had been reduced on appeal, and watched Dale Maxfield play shortstop. On May 25th, the A's returned to Detroit, and Campaneris was welcomed back to a loud chorus of boos from the fans who had not forgotten the LeGros incident. Tigers catcher Bill Freehan took out Campaneris in a play at the plate, and Campaneris suffered a shoulder injury that forced him to miss 6 games. In the 11 games Campaneris missed as a result of the suspension and injury, the A's record was 2-9. For the season, Campaneris batted .250 and had 34 stolen bases, going on to be selected as the American League starting shortstop for the All-Star Game. The A's won the AL West with a record of 94-68 and faced the AL East champion Baltimore Orioles in the ALCS. Before the series, Orioles pitcher Jim Palmer commented, "I think the key to beating Oakland is keeping Campaneris off base." The Orioles failed miserably in Game 2, as Campaneris reached base 3 times in 5 plate appearances, hitting a home run to lead off the game, stealing a pair of bases, and scoring 2 runs in the A's 6-3 victory. He had a walk-off home run in the 11th inning of Game 3. The A's wound up winning the series 3-2. Against the New York Mets in the World Series, Campaneris batted .290, stole 3 bases, and hit a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning of Game 7, which, along with Reggie Jackson's 2-run home run in the same inning, gave the A's a lead they did not relinquish in a 5-2 victory. Reggie Jackson, who batted .310 with 6 RBIs, would go on to be named the series' most valuable player. Campaneris was disappointed that he did not get the award, but said, in quote, "Reggie is my friend." The A's returned the World Series in 1974, their 3rd straight appearance. Campaneris again represented the American League in the All-Star Game. He batted .290 and stole 34 bases for the season. He missed 15 games between July 29th and August 11th when he suffered a severely sprained ankle. After defeating the Orioles 3-1 in the ALCS, the A's faced the National League champion Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series and won the series in 5 games. In Game 1, a 3-2 victory, Campaneris laid down an excellently executed squeeze bunt on which Ken Holtzman scored. Campaneris batted .353 in the series, stole a base, and contributed sparkling defense. He was also named to the Sporting News AL All-Star team for the 2nd consecutive season. Campaneris received a substantial raise for the 1975 season, reported by various sources at $20,000, $25,000, or $35,000. He batted .265 and stole 24 bases. Despite the loss of Catfish Hunter to free agency, the A's won the AL West Division, but were swept by the Red Sox in the ALCS. In 1976, the A's would enter a difficult period. The team was aging and many members were passing their prime, and free agency had become a factor in contract negotiations, something owner Charlie Finley had difficulty dealing with. Campaneris was among the players who sought big raises. Finley offered $90,000, but Campaneris asked for a 5-year contract at $120,000 per year, or $135,000 for 1 year. Campaneris wound up with a salary of $72,014. He would go on to bat .256, made 23 errors in 149 games, and stole 54 bases in 66 attempts, including a club record 5 and a 12-7 victory over Minnesota on May 24th. Despite the loss of Reggie Jackson and Ken Holtzman via the trade, the A's posted an 87-74 record and finished in 2nd place in the AL West, just 2.5 games behind Kansas City. A free agency re-entry draft was held after that season, and Campaneris was selected by the maximum of 12 teams. After considering all the offers, he signed a contract worth a reported $750,000 for 5 years and became a member of the Texas Rangers. He would go on to play 6 more years in the midst of a steep decline in performance with Texas, the California Angels, and then one final season in 1983 with the Yankees. Released by the Yankees after his final season in 1983, Campaneris was hired by the Angels as a minor league bunting and base running coach. One of his special projects was working with Angels speedster Gary Pettis. He also had stints as a coach with the Houston Astros and the San Francisco Giants. In 2014, he lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, and was a frequent participant in old-timers games. He conducted baseball camps and was actively involved in the charity golf tournaments held by the Major League Baseball Players Alumni Association. The highest praise for Campaneris may have come from his old boss and antagonist owner Charlie Finley, who said in 1980, "You can talk about Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, and Sal Bando, all those great players, but it was Campy," referencing Campaneris, "who made everything go." Over the course of his Major League career, he played 19 seasons, playing in 2,328 games, batting .259 for a career batting average with 79 home runs, 646 RBIs, 983 runs scored, 649 stolen bases, and 2,249 hits. Over the course of his time in the green and gold with the A's, he spent 13 of those 19 seasons with the Athletics. He played in 1,795 games, batting .262, 70 home runs, 529 RBIs, 566 stolen bases, and 1,882 hits. His 1,795 games are the most that anyone has ever played in an A's uniform in the franchise history. He scored 983 runs, which was the third most in franchise history. 270 doubles were 10th. 70 triples were 12th in the organization's history. And he stole the second most bases of anyone in A's history with 566, only behind the great Rickey Henderson. In his career, he would go on, Campaneris, to be a 6-time All-Star, a 3-time World Series champion. What a great, illustrious career you had, Mr. Campaneris, who donned the number 19 proudly and wore the uniform greatly, and is one that A's fans everywhere will remember until the end of time. So glad we had the pleasure of kicking it back and telling the story of Campaneris, another one of the franchise's all-time greats. Truly was a major contributor in so many aspects to the growth of the A's franchise. And with that brings us to the conclusion of another edition of A's Day. Appreciate once again you kicking by on this Friday to kick off your weekend, or whenever you're listening to this episode of A's Day. We appreciate each and every one of your support. On today's show, we discussed Shea Langeliers and the A's agreeing to a 1-year contract valued at $5.25 million to avoid arbitration. We discussed what the third base competition and the candidates, what that's going to look like. And we do end up predicting, we do believe that Max Muncy will be winning that job. We'll see and track it all throughout spring training. Jamie Arnold, their first-round pick from this past year's draft, according to General Manager David Force, is going to receive an invitation to Major League Spring Training. We discussed what that means, what it's going to look like, and what invaluable experience that Arnold is going to be in line to receive this February and March. And then before getting on out of here, we continued on with this week's edition throughout this offseason. This player in A's history kicked it back to the 1970s, talked about shortstop Bert Campaneris. We'll be back once again behind the mic for Tuesday's show, as we will discuss any transactions that go on between this show and Tuesday. And then we'll take a look at the bullpen as currently constructed and any additions that could be coming into that unit. If we hear any rumors or want to give our thoughts on some people that may be positive additions to this bullpen. We do think they may be nearing the conclusion to the end of their offseason activity, but time will tell. Hopefully this is an area that they continue to add some depth, but we'll have to patiently wait and see. That's all I have for you today. Again, thank all of you very, very much. It is a privilege to be able to talk about everything A's baseball with each and every one of you. And thankful for each and every one of you to want to hear my thoughts on a weekly basis on what's going on with the A's and what we have to look forward to. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grado. Hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy some time off, and we'll be back behind the mic here shortly on Tuesday, talking about all the new stories surrounding A's baseball. Take care, everyone. Holy Toledo. Let's go A's.